Here's how I process spray roses. Add a little bit of hydration solution to cool, deep water. Leave the packaging on and remove any foliage that'll sit below the water line. Remove 1/2 inch to 1 inch off the bottom of the stems with some sharp, clean shears. Place directly into water for at least 1 hour to hydrate with that packaging on. After an hour, remove the roses from the packaging, and if desired, remove all of the remaining foliage. This is, of course, your choice. Remember to trim your stems if they've been sitting out of water for any length of time, and roses like deep water. Now, before preparing to design, I do like to remove any guard petals that might be damaged or bruised, simply by pinching and pulling the petals off the rose heads. To prepare your spray roses for designing in bouquets, take a sharp, clean knife and glide it parallel to the stem all the way down, removing any thorns. Place back into deep water and you're ready to go. One of the unique attributes of spray roses is that they have all of these laterals on the side. And one of the things that I encourage designers to do is to consider removing 1 or 2 of these lower laterals. Oftentimes they get hidden in a design. They're tucked sort of deep and they can end up getting crushed or pinched. And so I recommend removing it and using this separate blossom deeper into the design to create a little pocket of color. I'm also using them for boutonnieres, corsages, flower crowns, even in little cocktail arrangements. So they're just a useful way to separate them, get more bang for your buck out of every stem. Now, if you're going to use a spray rose for a large installation, maybe a large sympathy piece, keeping them intact makes the most sense. But breaking them down when working in smaller arrangements really allows you to extend that value out of each of those stems. In bouquet making, many times this lower lateral is going to end up getting pinched and pressed in the binding point of the bouquet or where your hand is holding it. So I will often remove this lateral so that I also have a nice clean stem for my binding point. Now, certain varieties of spray roses have better looking profiles than others. For example, this spray rose has a beautiful airy quality. It can sit up high in a design and look beautiful from all directions. However, many spray roses on their profile aren't as impressive as the face of the spray rose. So one of my recommendations in utilizing spray roses to their most effective quality is to sink them a little bit deeper in the design. I also like to terrace them like this and place them at a 45-degree angle so that the face of that rose is facing the viewer. Specifically in centerpiece work, this is very useful. The arrangement I'm going to make today is really a celebration of utilizing spray roses in all of their glory. So as I lay these flowers into this small little ceramic container, I'm going to be paying very close attention to the angle at which I'm placing them. Spray roses can vary in the growing pattern. For example, this particular spray rose, all of the flower heads are at the same plane. Now this can be really useful if I need coverage. Now if I want something in a bouquet or a design that embraces a little bit more negative space, I want to utilize a spray rose that has the flower heads at different planes. When a spray rose has these different planes, it enables me to create that natural transition in a design for the eye to follow, which can create more of a linear effect. I've prepped my mechanics with a flower frog and some chicken wire. This inspiration can be for your table or for a small centerpiece or even a cocktail arrangement. Now typically I'm going to get started with the laterals that I've already cut off, removing any of the guard petals, and placing the stem low in the design at roughly a 45-degree angle. Now I'm going to continue to stack and terrace all the stems and I want to create a variation of heights here. Some sticking a little further out, some sunk a little deeper. Breaking your flowers apart is an important part of designing. I think about this like a chef who breaks down their ingredients and uses every little piece of the flower to its maximum benefit. Here's the start of the arrangement. You can see that I'm angling the faces towards the viewer and creating a little bit of a visual pathway here in between. Your eye's going to naturally travel from point A to point B throughout this tiny little vessel. I'm going to start working my way to the other sides of the design by starting to bring up and elevate some of the spray roses a little bit higher. So we're building from the bottom up here, creating a little bit of coverage down low with our laterals, and then utilizing our longer stems to build a little bit more height and interest. Don't be afraid to continue to edit any laterals off. When stems feel a little bit too bulky, they can look a little too dominant in a design. So by removing some of those excess laterals, we lighten up that stem and we're better able to utilize those side stems deeper in the design, creating sort of that natural gradation. Continuing to add spray roses a little bit higher. And I want to build these all again on different planes. So I've got some floating up high, some deep down. I'm going to separate more laterals here. And when I separate these, I want to cut really close to the stem so that I don't have any little nodules sticking out. We want clean stems. Don't be afraid to really sink some of these deep down, almost sitting right on top of your mechanics. So you have a little bit of a terrace here going, one deeper down and another above. So by breaking apart these laterals, we get so much variation in the way that our design can start to look, other than this large kind of mass floating around. So we can still build a lot of interest and asymmetry just by simply breaking our stems down. I typically like to work one variety at a time, but I don't want to get too heavy on any certain variety in any given area. So it's important that I move my design around as I'm placing more stems, just to make sure that everything is feeling visually and physically balanced. This is such an impressive stem here. I really don't want to sink it too deep. I want it to be seen and appreciated a little higher in the design. I'm going to come in with the last little element here and float these a little higher. They have a beautiful sort of raspberry color to them, but they also have a little bit of violet, which is going to pick up on the violet in this spray rose. That chicken wire will catch the stems nicely. And then we get a mix of the different ways that that flower is being utilized. So it's being used higher up and in a more airy quality, and also a little bit more dense. I can take this one stem and separate some of these lower laterals and cut the stem fairly short and add these laterals back into my hand for one single little stem insertion. So we get different layers and we make a nice strong little impact inside the design with this one little moment, this little cluster of these sprays. You can also separate the inside of the stem, and now you have two little stem insertions. One can go deep and this one can float a little further out, also making this a little bit more versatile in how you utilize a spray rose. When you cut a spray rose deep down, it really does change the whole effect. So it doesn't look so spindly. Now it has this really unique kind of impact in the design. Just step back, take a look. I've wanted to create sort of a funky, asymmetrical design. Lots of stacking and terracing. This is a big trend right now, is utilizing pin frogs to create these really fun, interesting shapes. I wanted to make an arrangement that showcases all the different ways that I like to utilize spray roses by removing those laterals, clustering them together, examining each type to see how to best use it in a design.